happy to be here today. I wanted to be able to have the opportunity to let you meet my teammates and to meet my board members that we interact with. And I wanted you to really understand from my perspective. I am from Southeast, and I've been in many working capacities. I practiced law in Anchorage for a while. I came home, I worked in Juneau. I did work with children who are now cultured, beautiful adults that I'm very proud of. There's so many roles that I've played. And when you come from a small community, it's all about reciprocity. What you give in your lifetime is how you're honored when they end your life. And I think that's a really important concept. I take what I've learned and try to be humble about it, because, you know, humility is a really key factor in our culture. But I have to be able to get up and say that what I'm doing is part of the vision that I've had, this process we went through. That's what Barb asked the question. It was a very lengthy process. I've been vetted for jobs. I've had criminal background checks. I've never had a credit check done until this one. And that kind of cracked me up, because I was like, oh, good thing I pay my bills. But I really want you to know, I want our shareholders to know, the people who live outside of Alaska, if you're in Florida, Colorado, wherever you're at, I want you to know this was a very competitive process. And I'm very honored that that I decided. It was a decision on my part. Am I going to put my name in the hat? Am I at the place in my life where I can offer the time and the energy and in a positive, good way? I told myself I no longer have time for petty arguments or for the jealousy and the insecurities that I've had to battle with the last 20 years in forming some really good relationships, and took a lot of time. And I looked at Alaska and I said, yeah, I want to be part of that. I want to be a part of what I've already lived a very good life in obtaining, whether it was for language, whether it was for fighting for tribal courts, whether I'm involved right now. I'm also a judge. I'm involved in developing tribal youth courts, and our new youth advisor, Mike Gail Demmer, Kayla, is someone I work with. And so we're doing this visionary, dynamic work that is going to help our future. And so does that fit in with who I am and what I do? Yeah, it does. And I also look at my teammates and I see that they have the ability to sit down. And in this very crazy time that we live in today, we have to be able to do the work, the hard work it takes. And I think I'm sitting amongst peers that have had the challenges as I have, and they've also been very, very wise about how to maneuver forward. I don't waste my time anymore on pettiness, and I say it openly, because we don't have time in this crazy virus. We have to move forward. So this process told me I competed heavily, and I feel I earned that position with my education. I feel like I earned it with my dedication to my community, to my language, to my culture. And I believe that if this group is selected, if we are picked, I know that we can do some dynamic things, because that's part of my vision. That's part of the work I do. I told our chairman, Joe, that I do hope I get elected, because I don't know if I'm in your dream or if you're in my dream, because this is what I've been doing in my life. And I love the rewards when we learn how to be collectively moving forward. So that wraps it up. I don't want to take credit for the way things used to be. I refuse to do that. I want to have you understand this was a different process, and that it was very competitive, and I'm very proud to represent you should I be elected. Hawa.
Jada. Dr. Michelle, what did you think about the process you went through to get on the board endorsement, and why do you think you were selected?
Wasayati Sadau Dusok Chukanadi Ayahat Dr. Intan Yadi Ayahat. I am Dr. Angelou Michaud, and I believe that this was an amazing process to go through. It was over a month of getting packets and papers and interviews and the waiting process to find out. I think it was great, but I don't think it just started now. I believe it started a long time ago. I grew up in Ketchikan. My maiden name was Pfeiffer, and when I wrote for that Sea Alaska board or Sea Alaska scholarship, I wrote that I wanted to come back and give back to my community, and in that way, I wanted to come back to help with the health and healing of our people. And part of that is in the Maslow's hierarchy need. You need the food, you need the housing, you need the water to survive. And if people are staying in that survival mode, you can never move up to that next level. And so it's been my life goal. I'm a servant leader, and so working to help people move to the next step, help them in their health and healing, but also be in leadership. And so I ran as an independent 7 years ago. I had a little baby at that point. She was only like 6 months old, and I also had a 3-year-old, and that was a good race. And it was difficult running as an independent. And I learned in that process some of the things I still was needing to work on. And this year when it came up, and someone asked if I was going to run, and it made me stop and think. And I was like, is now the time? Is the time now? And I said, yeah, it is. I have my youngest is just graduated kindergarten yesterday. And so I don't have my babies at home. They're still young, but they understand the work that we do. And I think it's about family, and it's about the next generations, and it's about my kids' next generations. So I believe the time is now. I have the credentials that I've been in leadership. I've been on different boards. I work on the Hoona Heritage Foundation board. I also am on the Cook Inlet Native Head Start board. So different boards that connect with the people. And then through my job, I work with people and tribes all the time. So I think being able to connect with people, build the relationships, build healthy families, and be able to listen and be there as a servant for others. That's really why I'm here, and that's why I'm running.
Sheesh. Mike Roberts, what did you think about the process to get the Sea Alaska endorsement? And why do you think you were selected?
Well, I'll say this. When we had our first meeting among the 4 endorsed candidates, you look to your left and you look to your right, and you have Lisa on one side and Dr. Angela on the other, and then Morgan, who I knew from having followed him into the Clinton Haida Tribal Business Corp, was like, holy smokes, Batman, why'd they select me, right? I mean, just some really talented folks. And I'm just really honored to be part of that. I say it's an interesting process. I, like Angela, had gone through this process once before, about 2 years ago. And I'll say that in the 2, I thought, wow, I've done this before. It's going to be pretty straightforward. Not ready at all. I mean, the difficulty factors of this year versus 2 years ago, the board has really upped the kind of screening and vetting they've done for the candidates. And it was really kind of a fun process to make you think about, really do a lot of self-reflection about why. And I have to say that it was good. It made you think about what motivates you to be part of this group. And for me, I grew up in Ketchikan, and I think that, and my family is from Powak, and I think, when you grow up that far away from Juneau, you always think, wow, do they hear me? Do they care? That sounds like a 1980s pop song, but you're always wondering if you have to jump up and down to get more attention. And I'll say that, even going to school in Washington State, you feel like you're even one more step removed, and in Colorado. And when you realize that, half of our tribal members are outside of Alaska, and all of us are kind of wanting to be home and wanting to connect to our tribe and to see Alaska, and wondering if we're heard. I think that's where I thought I had a place and a voice and a say in this process, and that I understand what it's like to be so far away from home and still want to be connected culturally and physically. And, my yearly trips home don't get me that. But I think, much like Lisa, I was encouraged by my parents and my grandparents to go away and get education with the clear expectation that I would come back and do good work for Tlingit and Haida and Tsimshian people. And I've spent my life doing work for other Indians, and in that process, holding up the rich heritage that Alaska Natives have, and make sure that we're included in those conversations at a national level, along with our brothers and sisters from Hawaii. So I think it was a very strong vetting process, and it was intimidating, and it's even more intimidating to be among such great team members. But I'm excited that Alaska's chosen a different way to go about this, and I'm flattered to be part of this slate.
Mike. Morgan, how did you feel about the process, and why do you think you were selected?
Whaddya originally from Yakutat and Kodiak. And the process, I thought, was very thorough. I served on 2 other boards, which Michael mentioned, one, Tlingit and Haida Tribal Business Corp, and also a Village Corporation board. And as a director and on the nomination committees for those boards, I was involved in several CEO hires. The process for this selection was similar to a CEO hiring process. A very thorough process where a committee goes through and interviews a lot of folks and then eventually makes it down so the finalists get the full board approval. I think the criteria set out is good, and you have to meet a lot of qualifications. It's not just enough to be interested and passionate about this. That's the minimum requirement. It's not just enough to have experience in business. It's not just enough to have experience and knowledge of your culture. You need all of those things. It's a dynamic position above and beyond a lot of other corporations. So there's also the idea of fit, and that one I see as, and in this moment of time where the board is, what do they need? And I think the fit that they looked at me for was communications. I was a communications vendor to Sea Alaska and many other Native corporations, which is what I still do today. I have a communications company, and I service Native entities throughout Alaska and the Northwest. I think that was probably one of the reasons why I was selected, was because of the fit of being able to provide communication expertise to the board, and also business experience with owning my own company and being involved in other business ventures, from some entrepreneurial adventures to other long-standing businesses. I think those were the 2 reasons why I was selected, and I think the process was one that a lot of shoulders don't know about, but they can learn about it by going to Sea Alaska. It's all out there, the criteria. I went through it previously before I was selected to be a board-endorsed candidate, and I thought at the end of it, that was really thorough, and I really liked, it wasn't me, but I liked who Sea Alaska chose for the position. I thought, I can see why that person was chosen. They're really good, and I think that's going to move the company forward. So I think it serves the company very well at this moment in time. This company, like us as a people, we're in the middle of something now, and we have to do what's best now to get us to the next place. Simultaneously, also thinking far ahead, like Sea Alaska does, working on a 100-year business plan. Make decisions for today and also make decisions for the future as well. Thank you.
Halak to everyone who just answered that question. We're very thankful that you were all selected to be on this board slate. I know that See Alaska rigorous process. I know it wasn't easy because we went through it last year. And there's a reason why all of you are sitting here today with us. It's not only to do with the pieces of paper that you provided us, but who you are as individuals, who you are as connected people to our Alaska Native way of being. So I'm